Let me get my book there. I'll put you later. So we're really right at the bottom of Lamed Aleph on the base, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, we got to the top, but I was just pushing to get there. So let's start from the beginning of Lamed Aleph on the base. And Dr. Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yosef. It's the last of three words. Amar Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef said, now we can move on to Lamed Beis Amud Aleph, which is Leiv hearts. The Rosh Hashanah that we should be zeichet to Mol Hashemes Levavcha. And Mashiach should come. Hai Challah de Shechra Darmo. You have beer vinegar from a goy. Also, you're not allowed to eat it. The Ma'arvi Beidur Daya, because they mix shmorim into it of the Yayines. Amarabashi Ume Oitzer Shari. If it's a barrel that they're putting away to store, there we don't have to be concerned that they'll mix shmorim into it. Only if they're selling it. Like we know when you go to a bar, you buy a drink, they usually water it down a little bit. So that's the same thing that they would do there. They would mix shemarim of wine into it, but when they're putting it away to store, they would not keep them Arvi Bay Masasuri. Putting shemarim into it will ruin it, and therefore they will not. If you're buying a sealed barrel from them from their warehouse, you don't need to worry. The Cheres Hadrioni, the Mishnah said that one of the items that you cannot buy from a guy is a Cheres Hadrioni, a Hadrianic Cheres. Did you ever hear of Labriut meals? You've heard of Labriut meals, right? Where if you're on the go, the meals come, they're preserved, they never go spoiled. And if you mix some, I think you bang it, or you do something, it heats itself up automatically. You ever heard of self-heating? You ever heard of the self-heating meals? Well, they make meals. You buy them in a box. They last forever. I think you mix by squeezing something, it mixes two chemicals together. It creates a chemical reaction, and when you open up the package, it's piping hot. I once had one of those meals. It's amazing. It's like piping hot. You could burn yourself, and it's all done through a chemical reaction.
You don't think you're eating chemical? No. All healthy stuff? No, chemical is not good. I don't think it's
What does health have to do with this? And when you eat potato chips, you're not eating chemicals. So you see, there's meals on the go for people who travel, people who are in the army, or they'll have powder they could mix with the water to make a drink. They're not going to schlep gallons and gallons of water with them. They have Kool-Aid powder. So that's what they had over here.
That's what they had there when we were in Paris here. We went to the use of measure.
Oh, that powder.
All meal marks, the whole wall.
Right. So this is what we have over here. So Zok to Gemara, my Hadriani, Amr Rabbi Yehuda, Amr Shmuel, it's Cheresh Shel Hadriani's Keser. It's the Cheres, which is a shard of clay from Hadriani's Keser. What does that mean? He explained. What they used to do was Karka Basula Hoyso Shalay of the Adam. First, they found a piece of property that no one ever touched. So it was chock full of nutrients. Never was it depleted. Never did we deplete or suck any nutrients out of it. Although they worked that piece of land, the Natan they planted it, and they made wine. The they took brand new, beautiful jugs, and they put this unbelievable, strong, well-nourished wine into these jugs, and the jugs were dry. They were new clay jugs, so they sucked and absorbed a lot of the wine flavor into the walls of the jug. And then, after they would do that, they would put the wine elsewhere, but now the walls of this jug is totally absorbed with the wine flavor. They would break it into small pieces of clay shards, and that's what they would pack. That's what the soldiers would pack in their knapsacks. But Dari Badayun, they were able to carry those shards in their knapsacks. And whenever they wanted a drink and they wanted the wine flavor, Tari Lahu, they would soak those shards in water, and it would flavor the water of a shasi. So you might think, barely a little flavor. Rabbi Shuban Levi, Varishan Shalonu, our freshly fermented wine tastes like Shlishi Shalohen. The third time, they soak it in the water. So the first time they soak it, they get strong wine. The second time they soak it, they get strong wine. And even the third time they get wine that would be as strong as wine that we would get out of grapes today. I don't know if maybe the alcoholic content changed. It's the king wouldn't want the soldiers to be drinking alcoholic beverages anyway. Right? but the taste is there.
Maybe it was grapefruit, but it wasn't one.
I mean, no, it was for sure grapes. I'll bring it right. Look at Rashi. Kishahayu sharu gimel pam b'mayim hayu hamayim ashlishiyim mishubochim kiyayin shalom.
Right.
So it wasn't wine; it was water, taka, but it was water that had a very good flavor to it. Ibailu. It was not wine. Yeah. Ibailu. Ma'u lismaich behen kari hamita. What if, no, this shard, it says it's also, you're not allowed to buy it from a guy, right? It's also about no, right? It's also about no, because it's like yain esach. But what if I wasn't planning to use this shard for its wine? I was just planning to use it to put under the feet of my bed. So I'm using it for a completely different purpose that has nothing to do with wine. Would that be allowed? So how do we classify this shaila? I want the kiyum of these shards, but I did a but nothing to do with being over on wine or yain esach. It's nothing to do with the avera of stam yaina. It's simply to have a little bit of it's called a shim to lift up the bed, right? Zok Gemara shari or aser. The Gemara wants to, would this be mutter or aser? Toshma. Let's see if we could bring a raya. The Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Yochanan. We think this is a machlokes between Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Yochanan. Chad aser v'chad shari. And the Gemara here for Yosy, I don't know if you're Goyish or not, they also come on the author, and the Tzayonim say, if you look at certain Rishonim, they seem to be matir, so they obviously are not Goyish. Mesei, Hadardurin, Rashi Dardurin are small laginin, small flasks. The Harukvois, Targum Shal Chemes, that's a larger flask. Shal Oivdei Gechavim, that belong to Goyim, meaning they have the taste of the Goyish wines absorbed into their walls. But Yain Shal Yisrael Konospen, but they're full now with kosher wine. Would you be able to drink that wine since it's also absorbing flavor from the walls of those kalim? Also, b'shtia, you're not allowed to drink the wine from those flasks. Umutter bahana, but it will be mutter bahana. Hayid Shimon ben Guda, and notice this Guda is spelled with an aleph. Lefnei b'noy shel Rabbi Gamliel, al Rabbi Gamliel. So Shimon ben Guda said, "Edus on Rabbi Gamliel, sheshasa mimenu ba'aku." He even drank from it. He held that there wouldn't be a problem drinking, but v'loy hayduloi, but they didn't agree with him that would be mutter to eat. What about noidei shel oivdei kechav? You have these flasks that are from the goyim, and we know that there's a problem with drinking from them. But Rab Shimon ben Gamliel Oimer, Mishum Rabbi Yeshua ben Kefusoi, also Lasus ben Shtichan Achamor. These flasks are made out of leather. Can you cut open the leather and use it as like a saddle on your chamor? So you're repurposing it. So that's mamish exactly what our shaila is. These are also because of the wine content that they have, but you're not using it for its wine content. You're using it just as a slab of leather to put on the chamor. That's exactly our shaila. The katani the aser, and it says that it's aser. So you have a raya that it's aser when it's rosh kiyumai al yidei davar achar. Frank the gemara l'tameich. You're telling me that it would be aser? Well, kankanim shaloi dikachavim. We know that you're allowed to buy jugs. We know you're kankanim masanesh l'shushanim. You're allowed to buy jugs from a guy if you're going to use them for water. So literally, let them be aser. Literally, lemizben, they should be aser to sell or to buy. Zok to Gemara, Maishna Noidais, Uma Ishna Kankanim. Why should there be a difference? Amarava, I'll tell you the difference. Gezeira Shema Yivaka Noidai. A noid is made out of leather. It's a pouch that holds liquid. You might be riding on your chamor, and you might have a noid that's a kosher noid, and it starts leaking, and you're panicking. You need a patch for it. You're sitting on leather that you got out of a noid, right? The noid from a goy. You'll grab that noid, v'yitlenu v'yit perenu al gabe noida. You'll use it as a patch for your noid. So now you're having a na from it for its wine content, and that's why it's aser. But kankanim don't just split. A leather pouch could start to leak, so that's why there's a concern. Kankanim, we don't have that concern. In fact, the moral of Madam right to be aser. If you hold that even right to be is aser, Maishna kankanim deshori. So first, till now, we were working with the tzad that kankanim, that is mutter. And if it's mutter, the Gemara wanted to know, why can't you use the leather pouch? The teretz is, even though is not a problem, you would be allowed to put on the chamor. The problem is, we're afraid of an emergency, you'll use it to patch your wine. But now the Gemara wants to know on the other side. If you hold Rosh Hashanah is also, so how could the kankanim? How could you use the kankanim? So the Gemara, my time kankanim the shari, amurloch hasam leisid li'isur beinei. There is no isur be'en. You know, the kankanim are not much different than the hadrioni, than the shards of hadrioni. Right? The shards of hadrioni, we want to know if it's also or not. So the tzad that it's also to use to hold your bed up, because you're not using it for its wine content, you're just using it as a shim for your bed. That was the shard. If you hold that saucer, so the kankanim are very, very much the same thing. They're made out of cheres. If you want to use it for water, which is also a rosh hashanah, you don't need it for its wine. So why is that mutter if we have a shaila that the shards of hadriani we want to say is also because of rosh hashanah? So look, there's a difference. Hasam lesser lisur beinei. In kankanim, regular jugs, even though they once upon a time held the wine of a goy, but it's only the tam that's in there. And this will answer part of Dr. Phillipson's kasha. There it's only the tam that's in there. Hacha isa lisur beinei. These hadrianic shards, which were fresh shards that absorb the most powerful, most potent wine, there we say that there's actually wine be'en in those pieces. And therefore it's worse, and therefore the hadrianic shards are worse than a standard shard. Let me see if there's a toshes on it. No, there's no toshes on it. So someone explains that there's mamish mamoshes of wine in it. It's so that this fresh shard is so absorbent. I don't know the word for it. It absorbs so well. Absorbent. It's like bounty. It's like bounty, and there can actually be mamoshes of wine in those walls. Okay, so therefore, again, so the Gemara vibes it with a shaila. If you have something that would be usher because of its wine content, but you're not using it for wine at all, you're using it for a completely different purpose, and that's called roitze b'kiyuma de davar acher. Is there a problem? Is there a gzera of stam yain in such a case? V'loy hayduloi. It says that Rabbi Gamliel drank from this. He drank from this either dardurin or rikvois. He drank from it. So he held it was mutter, but v'loy hayduloi, they were not maskim to him. Rumini yain haba b'rikvois shaloi v'kachavim aser b'shtia umutter bano heid Shimon ben Goida with an ayin lifnei b'noi shal Rabbi Gamliel shashasi menu ba'aku v'hayduloi. So you see there, they were masking him. So Frank the Gemara, my loy hayduloi dika amar hasam. A minute ago you said loy hayduloi. Here you're saying hayduloi. What is it? Were they masking to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, or were they not masking to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel? Zok Gemara, hasam kol siyasai. When it said loy hayduloi, that means all of his colleagues disagreed with the fact that he drank wine from this flask. Avol benoi. But his son, Moidele, was Moidete. So this later brisa that says V'haidele is speaking about his son, was Moidete to his father. But Rabbi Shimon Gamliel was Moidete to Rabbi Gamliel. But Rabbi Gamliel's colleagues were not Moidete. Iba Yisema, Gudalachud, the Gudalachud. One is, there's two different stories here. One is Shimon ben Guda with an ayin, and one is Shimon ben Guda with an aleph. There are two different people. As Rashi says, now, the Meforshim explain that it's not stam that they, in one place they agreed, in one place they disagreed. There's actually a reason for it. There was actually a reason for this disagreement. Let me just quickly have a look, because I was rushing out this morning. I didn't have a chance to refresh myself, but they actually bring a svara as to why there's two different cases. The case of Goido with the aleph and with the hey, there's a difference, and that is as follows. So here he said, brings from the Chassam Sofer that it wasn't a Chazar. Ben Gudo with the Aleph, who said V'loy hayduloi chaveirav, was talking about wine that was in the kalim, that it's mutter. So he was talking about what did Rabbi Gamliel drank? He drank wine that were in these kalim, and that's where it was a loy hayduloi. And Kanus Pirusha Lakiyum, Ben Goida, who was made al yain Shabbat. So there's a difference in the actual nusach of the case. The first case was Haid Shimon Ben Guda Lefnei Benoi Shesasem Mimenu Ba'aku V'loi. No, it says, I'm sorry. It says Adadur Varakfoy Shalav Dekhavim Yain Shel Yisrael Konus Behem. The yain are konus behem, meaning likiyum. There's wine that was going to be in these containers for a long time. That was lahoduloi. But the second case of Ben Goida with the ayin, there was a slight difference in the case. It says haba birakvoi shalav tekachavim. If you come with them, that means it wasn't their likiyum. But he says the hainu shayayin shalagoy hayonasim ben lefisha. So the question is, was it a jug that had held wine for a goy for a very long time? So it had a long time to be absorbed into the wall of this jug or this flask. That's where the Chachamim didn't agree with him. But if just for a short period of time there was goyish wine in this flask and it didn't have much time to absorb from the wine that was in it, that's when they were moided to him. So if that's the reason why there's a difference, the Chassam Sofer asks, and he answers, but we don't have the teretz to it, then why didn't the Gemara say that? Why did the Gemara say, Goyda l'chud v'goyda l'chud, two different people? The Gemara should have offered us the details of the difference. That the first case was where they were colors, these flasks held the goyish wine for a long time, versus the second case where they just happened to be for a little while, some goyish wine in these flasks. Okay, that was the Avoda Zara. They used to serve Avoda Zara in a very horrible, brutal, violent way. They would just stab a round hole in the chest of the animal and stick their hand in and grab the heart out live while it was pumping, and that's how they served Avoda Zara. So those oiros, the skins from that are going to be usher. Tanu Rabbanan, Ezeu or Lavav, Kol Shekarua Keneged Alev V'Kader Kimut Aruba. First of all, it has to be a hole, a puncture right where the heart of the animal is, and it has to be a round hole. Yesh alav koret dam. If you see blood on the outside of on the skin over there, that means this was done while the animal was alive. That's how they did this avodah zara, and therefore it will be also because it would be an indication that that's what happened with this animal. But if there's no blood on it, as Rashi says, if there was no blood on it, then we know for sure it's mutter, because if they cut it out live, there would be blood on the skin. But if they just cut a hole out of his heart after the animal was shechted, then there wouldn't be blood on the skin. That would be a good way to know if this animal was never avodah zara. Amar Avuna, lo shanu elo shloi molchu. That's only if they didn't salt it. If there's no blood on the skin, but you had already salted the skin, then we don't know, because could be there was blood on the skin, but when you salted the skin, it took the blood off. So you have to look at it before it's salted. If there's blood on it, it's a sign that this issur was done with it, and if there's no blood on it, it's a sign that this was cut out after the animal had already died. Rab Shimon ben Gamliel, you could also see by the shape of the hole. If it's a nice round hole, that would be indicating that they did it l'avodah zara. If it's just torn, that's not how they do it. They're doing it l'avodah zara. Amar Rabbi Yosef, Amar Rabbi Shmuel, halacha k'Rab Shimon ben Gamliel, that the shape of the hole makes a difference. Amar Labai, halacha mechlal depli. Abaye was the Talmud of Rabbi Yosef. And he told his Rebbe, if you're telling us that you're pasking like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, why would you pasking like somebody if nobody argues on him? It must be that you know somebody argues on him. And because of that, you're telling us follow the halacha of Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. Omerlei, my nafkalach mina. So Rabbi Yosef said, no, maybe nobody's arguing on him. But why would you care if I say halacha Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, even if nobody's arguing on him? Omerlei, Abaye told Rabbi Yosef, Gemara Gomer Zamur Tatei. What is learning Gemara like a sing song? It's like a hobby. It's like fun. Everything is relevant. We don't just say things. Every word that you say is analyzed. So therefore, no, you can't tell me that the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel if there is no one arguing. As Rashi says, Amalei Gemara Gomer Zamur Tatei Bitmiya. Abaye was the Talmud of Rabbi Yosef. And he told Rabbi Yosef, Atam lamdeinu loimer halacha kamoisai uteke zemer balma. What you're telling us that the halacha of Shimon Gamliel and should be like a song, it's just entertainment. The ain't chalken halacha lamali. If there's no machlokes Rebbe, you shouldn't have told us that. It's funny that the Talmud is correcting the Rebbe. Don't tell us halacha like somebody if no one's arguing anyway. Zvaktik more weiter. Vasar anichnas lavoidis kechavim muter. If you have beef that's going into the base of avoidis kechavim, and the Yid was able to buy it. We know it was kosher meat, and he was able to buy it quickly before it went into the Avodah Zara. As Rashi says, it's going to be mutar bana im nizar Yisrael litloi im knisasei kaidim she'akrivosei. Oh, so it's not a question of eating. The guy shechted it, and it's not a question of eating the meat. The question is the meat going to be asher bana al takruvos Avodah Zara? If you quickly get the meat, you buy the meat off the goyish merchant before it's brought into the base of Avodah Zara as it's on its way in, so it hasn't yet been used to service of Avodah Zara, then you would be allowed to have enough from that meat. If it's on the way out, we assume that already the meat was used in Avodah Zara. Man Tana, who is the Tana? The Loiker Rabbi Lazar. This would be inconsistent with Rabbi Lazar. The Rabbi Lazar Amar Stam Machshavas Ovid B'Chavim Avodah Zara. Rabbi Lazar holds any guy who shechs an animal, even though it's not in the base of Avodah Zara, he's automatically shechting it l'shem Avodah Zara, and therefore, even though it didn't come into the base of Avodah Zara yet, the moment it's shechted by the guy, it would be asher bana. But our Mishnah disagrees with Rabbi Elazar. Once it's coming out of the base of Avodah Zara, then we already say it's asher. It's like ziv chemesim because we look at it like it's takruvus Avodah Zara. My timer, evshar the leka takruvus Avodah Zara. It has to be an animal that was brought to Avodah Zara. Mani zok Gemara. Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseri, he would go like Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseri. The time Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseri, Omer, Nilain let takruvus Avodah Zara shemitama ba'oyel. So we want to know, how do you know that the takruvus Avodah Zara is asher bana? So the Gemara says, and we had this right at the beginning of the sugya. How do you know that the takruvus Avodah Zara is mitama ba'oyel? Shenemar vayitzmedu lebal pa'or vayochlu zivchei mesim. So we consider a carbon brought Avodah Zara as zivchei mesim, and we make a zushtal ma mace mitama ba'oil, just like a mace is mitama ba'oil. After takruvus Avodah Zara mitama ba'oil, and by the same token, it's also going to be asher bana. Once we're saying it's like a mace, it's also going to be asher bana, as Rashi says by extension. We know ma mace asher bana. The same way Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseri learns from a mace that it's matama ba'oil, we could also learn that it's asher bana kidamim b'sanedrin v'tamas shamiriam, and this is what our Gemara said this at the beginning of the sugya. Tamas shamiriam sham me'egla rufa, just like egla rufa is asher bana, so to a mace is asher bana. After takruvus Avodah Zara asur bana, because we have a comparison of Avodah Zara to mesim, because it's called zivchei mesim. Kvalt. Ha'hechel trofos. Trofos are Rashi's levakesh to usan l'makamacher. Someone's going on a pilgrimage. Someone goes on his way. He's going on pilgrimage to go to the Avodah Zara. Also, losses v'losses simon. You're not allowed to do business with a guy that's on his way to do a pilgrimage to Avodah Zara. Why? Because he's surely going to arrive at the Avodah Zara with the purchase that he bought from you, or with the money, the proceeds of a sale that he sold to you, and he'll be mishabeich as Avodah Zara and the schus of me coming to you. I had a shishua. And when I took my shirley for Faher in Philadelphia, I dropped him off in Philadelphia Friday morning, and I went straight from there. We had a Shabbos at the oil. We had a Shabbos at the oil. So my son told me, and I spent Shabbos at the oil. My son told me the hardest question that he was asked on this Faher by the Rosh Hashivas was, "Where's your father for Shabbos?"
I thought you got a phone call.
But no. So on the way to the oil,
Yeah.
I got a phone call from Rabbi Lipschitz
Yeah.
that your son was already Fahered Friday morning, first thing,
Yeah.
and he was accepted.
Yeah, so don't think it was
So,
bad.
and then he said, and so don't think the Lubavitcher Rebbe Schus got him into Philly because he's already, you're not even there yet, and you see he already got accepted. So I told him, what are you talking about? The Lubavitcher Rebbe Schus helped so much
Right.
that Vibalt, I was even going. Vibalt, I was even going.
Okay.
I was going. So now I see it comes to this. I'm on my pilgrimage. Already there, I'm going to benefit from a good deal because of where I'm going. So that's Mama's what the good Mama's not too to the Gemara.
Tell someone that story.
So look to Gemara. Amar Shmuel, Ovid Kachavim, Ahoylech L'Trafois, a guy who's going on his pilgrimage to Avoda Zara, Va'alicha Aser, on his way to this pilgrimage, any dealing with him is Aser, the Azul Umoidi Kame Avodas Kachavim. Because you can thank the Getchka that, because of you, I was Zeicha to this good deal. But B'chazara Mutter, if he's on his way back from the pilgrimage, it's not a problem. You know why? My hava. He was already there. He's not going to turn around and go back. It's a long trip to go back. He's not going to go back to the Avodah Zarah to thank him. But a Yid Rachaman al-Tzlan, a Yid HaMeshubit is even worse than a Goy. Yisrael ha'ilach l'trafos, ba'alicha mutter. On the way there, it's mutter. You know why? He's going to Avodah Zarah as well. Teretz is Dilma Hajibay. V'lo yosel. A Yid, you always have hope that he'll do tshuva. Till he actually does the Avera, we're hoping and we believe that he will do tshuva and he'll turn around. But once he went and he's on his way back, b'chazara ulcer. You know why? Because once he does the Avera, he's worse than the Goy. Why? Even the Avik, once he's connected, keeping the Avik ba, once he's connected to the Avodah Zarah, Mahader Uzl. He'll go back. A Goy, when he leaves the pilgrimage, won't turn back and travel far back to go back to the Avodah to thank him. But a Yid who's in the Avodah Zarah is so sucked into the Avodah Zarah, he'll actually even go back. Rashi says Avik means Aniva, Lashon tied. He's tied to the Avodah Zarah even more than the Goy. Zok to Gemara, I Vatanya Yisrael Hailach Trafois Bein Balicha Bein Bechazar Aser. So how could you say Balicha? He's not Aser because you're assuming he'll do tshuva. We have a brayta that says we don't assume he'll do tshuva. Amar Bashi Kitanya Hi Yisrael Mumar de Balei Asel. The first time a Yid goes, even though he's headed on a pilgrimage to Avodah Zarah, yes, you're going to assume that he's going to do tshuva. He's not going to go at that. But if you know that he's a regular, that already, there's no hope for him. And him, you're not allowed to do any business with, because any business you do with him, he'll thank Yoshke or the Avodah Zarah for helping him with his great deal. Okay, Baruch Hashem, we were zeicha to finish the Lamed Beis, and Be'ez Hashem, tomorrow we will learn the Lamed Gimel. Shkoyach.
Yeah.
Shkoyach. I'm sorry that I was late.